Ladies and gentlemen, this is Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Welcome to the second edition of Conversations with Maverickstar Reloaded Gene Beards. Now, I want to thank each and every one of you that watched our last video where we basically talked about all the work that Maverickstar Reloaded has been doing for almost a decade with respect to the pole shift and the Mavstar Observatory, and we told you guys to get involved over here at his Patreon. Well, you guys certainly took to the challenge, and tonight we're looking at 69 patrons over at Maverickstar Reloaded, and I can see him smiling there. $382 a month. We can't thank you enough. This means, Gene, that we have the money to buy the magnetometers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We love it when you come on the show, Gene. Now, let's talk about what have you been doing in the last week since we talked? Anything exciting happen?
Yeah, we've ordered most of the components for the new magnetometers. We're going to be building 6 to start with. I have had the idea of also building a few others to put them in different locations around the world. But, it's going great. It's going to be mid-February before the components arrive. And as soon as they do, give me a week or two, I'll have them built, assembled, and programmed, ready to distribute to those people that are going to support us and take these magnetometers back to their own homes, install them. I'll go through it with them and to calibrate them over Skype. And we can then start getting the data sent back to the UK, where we'll process it and upload it to the website.
Now, we had a huge response on our YouTube channel after we did the interview, specifically below that video, where people all over North America are volunteering to be part of this project. Do you have the list? First of all, how many magnetometers are we going to be sending out in this phase? Is it 6 or is it 8?
Okay, I was originally going to just build the 6, but we've had a couple of people who have volunteered to put magnetometers also in Argentina, which isn't quite where one of the high-intensity regions are over the southern hemisphere of the Earth, but it is close enough, and I think we can get a result for that. And, in regards to that, I think we might go and put the other 2 there, so we're covering all 4 poles that are on the planet right now.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you have all of the volunteers for all the positions, or do you need me to go out and get some people like we talked about in China or maybe Russia or even Australia? Do we need positions there, or do you have that covered?
Okay, so we have plenty of people which could be ideal candidates. I'm going to have to Skype with a few of them and just let them know what is actually involved in this, because they're going to be taking SD cards out, putting them in the computer, uploading that file to their email account and then sending it to me. I'll do all the rest, but, they've got to have a few basic things like, when they install the magnetometer, we would like it to be in a position where it can stay there for at least a few years. And, if it's going to be moved or they can no longer continue with the project with us, we've got to find someone else to have that magnetometer in that region as well and, repeat the process.
Yeah, let's make that clear if you're listening out there. This is a scientific endeavor that we're working on. The data that we're going to be gathering needs to be pristine. We want to do this with the utmost standards. And what Gene is pointing out is that you can't do this on a whim. Those candidates that want to help out with the project, you need to dedicate some time in your life to help out. You need to find a secure place for the magnetometer where it will not be disturbed, where it can sit for long periods and gather the data that we need. This is critical for the experiment, and because we're doing physical science here, it's important that we don't waste time for a number of reasons. We don't have any money. We just started getting a little bit of money for the project, And so the money that we're spending, we don't want to waste it. We want to capture the best data. So make sure that if you're volunteering, you're doing it for the right reasons because you really want to help scientifically, and you're willing to dedicate time to the process, because it's not like we're going to get some amazing information all of a sudden. This is a slow process. And your fan just
Yeah,
kicked on.
yeah. Everyone talks about my famous fan.
I thought it was a
They think I'm
vacuum
trying
cleaner.
well, I've had people accuse me of trying to resolve, global warming with it called the atmosphere now. So, yeah. One of the problems we're going to have with at least two of these magnetometers is getting them into somewhere like China, because, as you probably know, there's a bit of an iron wall around China with regards to the internet. So actually sourcing, good people that can have the magnetometers there, it's going to be close to the China-Russia border, where ideally they would be better suited. So,
Well,
I mean, when I was looking on Google Earth,
Gene, we can send these units
when
out.
I was looking on Google,
we could send these units out to David Dubine, a friend of mine, a personal friend, and I know you watch his channel. He travels all around there, and instead of us trying to ship it through customs and trying to convince these people that it's a magnetometer, we could probably ship it to David Dubine as electronics parts. He could put it together and literally deliver them personally, because he's been touring China and looking at a lot of the mushroom houses and the solar greenhouses they've been doing. He even has a trip planned this spring. So let me talk to him and see because he has people all over China he knows, scientists. So if we need to get some of these units into secure areas, I think he can help.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought quite a lot about it with China. I mean, it could be even something that the government might request a license for. I don't know the full ins and outs of all that, but we don't want to get people in trouble doing something that the government wouldn't like. So it's something we've got to look into. First of all, I mean, it's harmless, really. All we're doing is collecting data on the magnetic field strength in that region, and but
tell the communist government that it's harmless.
This is it. Yeah, I mean, they might accuse us of being spying. What are you doing with this data? You're sending it back to the UK. What sort of data is it? You can just imagine, can't you?
Yeah, we don't want any people in foreign prisons. Let's keep this real. So let's not try to break any laws. Let's do this as smoothly as possible. And if you don't know, and it's the first time you're watching, guys, right now, Maverickstar Reloaded. He's been around for a decade. YouTube shut his original channel down. He came back as Maverickstar Reloaded maybe 7 years ago, and the channel is really picking up. And it's picking up because the magnetic pole shift is picking up, which you warned us 4 months ago, 4 months before the mainstream NASA and NOAA said the same thing, and that those mainstream outlets, those puppets, they picked up on it. Well, I'll tell you what, Gene Beards has integrity because he's been following this day in and day out for a decade. And if you come over to poleshiftnews.com, you're going to get all the information that you need on tracking the geomagnetic north and south poles. Why? Because Gene Beards, Maverickstar Reloaded, is on it. And what you're looking at here is a recent photo of the split poles up in the north, and obviously a double anomaly in the south. Now, if you're looking at it, we can see an asymmetry here. Gene, you and I know that we have this huge magnetic anomaly here in South America. A lot of people are wondering what that was. Is it a black hole on Earth? And it's simply the negative versus positive aspect of what's happening now. And we can clearly see on this picture here, there is an X. There are double poles splitting, and you and I have been going on and on about different theories about what's actually happening. But the highest magnetic intensity is over Siberia currently, and the Ukrainian government is actually placing the North Pole somewhere in the North Ukraine currently. I showed you that paper, and we now know that the South Pole is moved off of the tip of Antarctica and is headed towards Western Australia. Is there anything else you want to add to this point?
Yeah, dark blue region is what's known as the mid-Atlantic anomaly,
Yeah.
magnetic anomaly. And you're right. Recent reports are coming from the Ukraine as regards to their placing one of the magnetic poles now in the Ukraine. But I think what it might be is the Siberian intensity is actually reaching that far down now, and that's what they're talking about. As we was talking about earlier on, if you're in an aircraft flying from west to east over the Arctic region, you're going to fly first of all over the Siberian intensity, and then if you carry on, your compass in the aircraft would point to that, and then if you carried on westerly, it would probably yonder to somewhere between the two poles over Canada and Siberia. But the closer you got to Canada, it would then lock onto that pole as its main intensity would be drawing the compass needle towards it.
Now, I'm going to link ESA Swarm Earth Online. This is over at earth.esa.int / a couple of things. But you'll get the link to the Swarm Data Access, where you can access the actual data from Swarm here over at the ESA site. ESA site is a little different than NASA and NOAA in that they actually give you all the data. Whereas NASA and NOAA tend to hold it or darken it out for 7 to 14 hours or days or weeks before they release it, the ESA data is not released until it has already been vetted. So the data that you get at ESA is the data that they're releasing to the public, which is not necessarily truthful. It could be delayed. It could be delayed by years. And that's simply so that they can hold the upper end, the advantage. We know that there's trillions of dollars missing from the U.S. government. And this is not showing up on the surface of the earth. And what we mean by that is that there is no infrastructure being created that could spend this money visible from space. We have lots of people monitoring the surface of the earth that are watchers like you and I, Gene, and they have found no evidence of this money. That means that the money is being spent either off planet in a secret operation or underground on our Earth. And we know that there are underground military facilities. We have one of the largest known underground military facilities at Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. And that was built in the 60s. And God knows how expansive that is. Many people hypothesize that underneath of Denver Airport is another secure multi-story underground facility. But what we do know is $7 billion is being spent elsewhere for something. And it's definitely for preparedness in my eyes. It's because the elites, the shadow government, or the government elites are preparing for something that they're well aware of. We're getting limited information, and I've never really got your opinions on what would happen if a magnetic reversal occurs, let's say in the next 20 years. Let's say the magnetic reversal when the poles meet at the equator is in 20 years, Gene. What do you think happens? What are the effects of this reversal other than, which you and I talked about last interview, we talked about the splitting poles in the north affecting the polar vortex and weather and climate. So you and I are both on the same page that this magnetic reversal is affecting the climate, but catastrophically, do you have anything to add to what you think may occur at the 0 point, meaning not after the reversal is over, but when the poles meet?
Yes, I certainly do. First of all, to answer that question with the missing money, I think there is definitely a human continuity program in place. I think, we're no longer... I don't think it's fair to call people that talk about these deep underground military bases as conspiracy theories. I think we all know why they choose to, use that term. is to make us look all like tin-foil hats and crazy people. But there is a lot of money that is going missing from world governments. I think that it could well be related to a certain event that these governments are aware of, and it could even be related to, the magnetic pole reversal. This is a very big event. This is what people have got to understand. It is a rare event. Last time it happened was 750,000 years. On average, before that, it would go through a reversal, the Earth, every 350,000 years. And we have to ask the question, why has it taken another 500,000 years this time round to go through a reversal? Now, with the impacts of a slow migration, if the poles go into a period where they don't quite reverse, but there's neither a pole either where, or there's poles that are temporarily at different places on the Earth, then one thing for sure is that the magnetosphere will be greatly reduced. Now, one thing that these organisations don't seem to be talking too much about is what the effects are of a weakened magnetosphere. The weakened magnetosphere simply means that we could see higher rates of cancer, not just with ourselves, but every biodiversity and plant species on this planet as a whole. And it could even be a lot worse than that. At the end of the day, Mars lost its magnetic poles, and then it lost its magnetosphere, and then it lost its water on its planet, as well as possible its atmosphere. And who's not to say that this couldn't be something that we are looking at? I will mention, and I've mentioned this before on my channel more than once, some of the people that work for these organisations do sometimes come out, and I've had 2 people from NASA, and they've told me we are fully aware of what you talk about, but we're not prepared to come out to mainstream media and news and talk about it because we don't want to create a panic situation. And the other reason we don't want to do that is because we're not 100% sure whether this is going to lead to a global catastrophe. I will say this, the magnetic poles are the major players in planetary mechanics, and we are in this rare period of time where we're going through a reversal, unfortunately, and the magnetosphere is already weakened, and this is already widely talked about by these organisations to public sectors and outlets, that it has reached already 20% drop. I think it's a bit more than that. If the truth's known, I think we could be looking from 25 to 30% drop in the magnetosphere. And that's big trouble for us, guys, especially at a time when we're going through a grand solar minimum, because with the grand solar minimum, the heliosphere is shrinking, more cosmic radiation is inbound, and with the Earth also having a weakened magnetosphere at this current time by 20%, we could be, subjected to even further reductions in the magnetosphere. And of course, this starts to affect biodiversities across all ranges on the planet. And, it could easily be one of the reasons why there are, missing monies from government pots all around the world. There could be a real human continuity program underway. And, we have seen these trucks. I've seen these trucks here in the UK going into these tunnels. And, the guys that have spoken to these lorry drivers, and they say that these run pretty much halfway the length across America underground. And, they are taking food into these dumps, as they're called, as well as supplies. And they are trying to cultivate on large scales. And, that just gives you an idea of how big these places are. What is it they're actually building these for? What is the purpose? They must know something, otherwise they wouldn't be spending the vast quantities of money, and they wouldn't have, organisations such as, the United Air Force being involved in the actual building of these sites as well. So, it is shocking. I know some people to hear that some of these things are actually going on for the first time, but they are, and it could be, like I say, a real continuity program to save at least a few of the humans should there be such a great disaster. And I don't know whether it is linked to the magnetic pole reversal, but I will say this: I'm quite avid searcher, and I searched for a long time before I really got hooked on the fact that one of the major anomalies that is now taking place, which is the magnetic reversal, is probably one of the only biggest events that we should all be concerned with right now at this time.
Excellent points. All excellent points, Gene. I want to bring you in to a little bit more modern thinking on magnetic reversals. Now, you often,
Okay.
and since we've been talking, you always are referring to the Bruness Matuyama reversal at 720,000 years ago as the last magnetic reversal. And in fact, that is the last pure reversal where north and south flipped.
Yeah,
But
there's been a lot of failed reversals since
yeah,
then
so what you
that
can
not
see
many
here
people talk about.
in this old data, can you see the screen I'm showing?
Yeah,
You can see that at 100,000 year periodicity, there's a minor excursion where the magnetic fields go towards the equator but then snap back. So these little white strips are those excursions where it is approaching a reversal, but it snaps back to the original position. And then if you come into the last
yeah,
100,000 years of data up top here, you can see that we have a higher resolution, that these excursions, in fact, are happening at 12,000 year periodicities. The last one happened at the Gothenburg. That was the largest mass extinction on Earth for 5 million years. It just happened 12,000 years ago, where 60% of all megafauna in North America were eliminated essentially overnight. And then 23,000 years prior to that, there was a massive glacial outburst where the glaciers grew to epic proportions during that magnetic reversal. 33.5, there was a huge washout. They call this a Heinrich event, and another Heinrich event at 47 kiloyears. So there's these catastrophes that are happening around every 12,000 years, which are almost cyclic and periodic, like a clock. And I think that these probably are happening as well as we go back further. We just don't have the resolution or the data to prove it. And that's because as you flip the magnetic poles, you and I have talked about this, the rocks that retain the record get skewed, they get altered. You can switch a magnet pretty easily. It's not hard. We know how to do it. So it's easy to prove in a lab that we could actually be losing magnetic reversal information as it gets older. And if you look at the high resolution data we have for the last 50,000 years, you can clearly see every 12,000 years there's a magnetic excursion. Now, these excursions are just as bad as magnetic pole flips, because you were just talking about it. You and I both know that when this magnetosphere wanes to around 50% or less, the amount of cosmic radiation coming into our planet will be unprecedented. We don't know as a modern society what that means. Some people's hair may fall out. People may have radiation sickness. Plants will suffer. But we know that cosmic radiation can cause massive deformation in genetic code. The DNA can be changed due to cosmic rays. And if we're talking about a time period over the next few decades where this cosmic radiation is going to increase 2, 3, 4-fold, we're talking upwards of 100% increases in just a decade. We've already seen 15% increase in 3 years. This is proven at dozens of stations throughout North America. It is also estimated that this increase will become more exponential. It's logarithmic. So in 3 years, we had 15%. The next 3 could be 30% more cosmic radiation. We don't even know what that means. Clearly, it is my belief that they're going underground to save themselves from exposure to this radiation. What say you?
Could be. That could be one of the reasons why they're going so deep underground and into mountains. one of the things what you was talking about there is absolutely right. Cosmic radiation will smash into the deoxyribonucleic acid or the DNA, and when it does that, it will cause it to break the chains in the DNA, and that is what sets up the cancers of various types. I noticed I watched a few documentaries on when astronauts went out into space. One of the things that they did was take antioxidants, which was purposely done to slow down the cellular reproduction, which if there was, strikes with radiation, it would give it slowly, or give it a little bit more time to recover because the cellular growth had been slowed down by the usage of antioxidants. So, I have mentioned this to people on my channel before, that perhaps one of the things that we could do if we are, in the not too distant future, finding ourselves in an environment where there is a lot more radiation, would be to take antioxidants to slow the cells down, as did the astronauts on especially these polar missions.
Yeah, there's even the Korean government has developed an herbal product called Him. Now, this was developed because of people working in nuclear facilities near high radiation were getting sick. This protects the individual from getting any radiation sickness because of the high level of antioxidants in these products. They actually prevent damage to the cells. So if you actually take the right supplements, you can mitigate minor increases in this radiation. And the Korean government has known this for a while. The South Korean government, you can Google the product, Him, Hemo, space, HIM. And they've been very successful with this product. Leah and I own about a 5-year supply of this daily supplement, simply because we want to be ready in case of cosmic ray increase. Because I believe that very few people can make it through the catastrophes that are going to be unfolding in the next few decades. If this magnetic reversal if the public is not informed about this, there are going to be many casualties, because people are simply not going to know what they're not doing. They're not going to know what is affecting them.
Yeah, it's not just going to be a case of what the risks involved with cosmic radiation. I think, as fairly David Devine has pointed out, what we're already seeing is crop loss on good arable land no longer being in a position to be productive anymore. We're going to see, like we are seeing already, countries like China hold back on their exports and become importers of this. And, there is 7 billion souls on this planet. And when large chunks of this planet become unproductive and no longer can be grown in, then there's going to be a fight for that little bit of land that is left, that is productive. And like I say, 7 billion people might seem like there's plenty of room right now, but when the, arable land gets less and less, it's going to seem probably like we're overcrowded at that point, especially if we are going into perhaps another glacial period with regards to, all the what we'll have to do one of the days is just talk about some of the knock-on effects with regards to climate and how that is changing as well at some point.
Okay, Gene, we covered a lot of great topics tonight. My purpose of this podcast was to inform the general public on the fact that you and I both thank them for the major outpouring of support to your work and your channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and more importantly, that we need help from the public. So there may be a few sites we still need some support. So, if we talked about your area and you're one of the people that may dedicate several years of your life to helping out with the project, please contact us. If you think that this is like a video game and you're just going to throw this thing in your closet, please do not apply. We're trying to do serious citizen science. with a limited budget, and we need accurate measurements, and we need dedicated scientists that are going to take this seriously.
Yeah.
Can you add a little?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, there is going to be a certain level of work involved. These devices don't run on a lot of electric, so it's not going to cost a lot of money for people. It's going to cost them their time more than anything. And what that means is when they're up and running, once a month, they're going to go to the device, pull out the SD card, put it in the computer, and send that over to us over here at the Mavstar Observatory. We will process that data and then in turn upload it onto the website where people can see. But more than this, what the whole point of this is to see how fast these high intensity regions that you've got up on the screen now are moving towards the equatorial regions. So that if we are in a rapid stage of migration, you know, we can get some heads out to people in advance. Hopefully, it might save them being the last people in the supermarket that only are able to afford the wiper blades that are left on the shelf and not the food.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The purpose of this is so that we have advance warning. We have our own system in place that the powers that be cannot control, so that we are independent on our own analysis. We can inform the public accordingly. It is looking very clear here, Gene, that these two red zones, the red area anyway, will begin touching in less than a decade. And it's anyone's guess
Yeah,
what that means, because it's accelerating. It could even be 5 years. No one knows.
well, it is the nature with magnetisms to find their opposites, and we are seeing a North Pole being attracted by a South Pole. More worryingly, we're seeing two North Poles break apart, and likes repel each other, opposites attract. So we're getting close to a period of time where something is happening. I brought this to people's attention, like you said earlier in this podcast, that there is uptick in the behaviour of the poles over the northern hemisphere right now. And only on the 9th of January, mainstream organisations came out and told people. So we was ahead of the game by 4 months on that.
Yeah, and if you want to be ahead of the game, you can become the next patron to Maverickstar Reloaded. We implore you to get involved. If we can get this to 100 patrons by next month, I think we'll be in a good position to continue your work. And that's going to, and I said this to you earlier, that's going to motivate you to give more updates to the public on your YouTube channel, simply because you're going to want to thank the people supporting you, if nothing else. But what it's also going to do is accelerate this mission to get these magnetometers around the globe, to get us advanced warning so that we can report to the public on what's happening before the mainstream is allowed to know. And if in fact there is a massive acceleration of the poles, or something catastrophic happens, we will be able to detect it instantaneously, well before any of the mainstream can hide it from us. So we'll be able to get that information out to you before anyone on the planet. If you've never been involved with another scientific endeavor and you want to get involved now, you can do it for $1 a month over at Gene's Patreon. Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Adapt 2030. The entire community will support you and thank you. It's about a collective bringing the science to the forefront of the layman. We're not talking in advanced terms. We can all do this together. Everyone on the planet can understand scientifically what's happening, because you and I can explain it to them. And if you help out with the project, you will actually be part of making history. This is a once in 12,000 years. And if it's a real, true magnetic reversal, it's almost a 1,000,000-year event. This is the most historic geologic event ever being recorded, and it's happening right now, real time. I cannot tell you how excited I am to watch it and to report on it. But at the same time, there is a catastrophic element where this could be very bad for the billions of people that live on this tiny blue marble. And the powers that be know, and I think Gene revealed it earlier, and we'll get into that in the next podcast. I think we're going to pull up the Chan Thomas story, the work of Charles Hapgood and other people from the 40s and 50s that were warning us about this magnetic reversal, the catastrophic effects of potential crustal slip, the reduction in the rotation of the planet, and in fact, if it is a true reversal, the fact that the rotation of the planet may actually stop and then start spinning in the opposite direction. We have esoteric and religious documents that have accounts of this happening. So we're not completely making this up. We're basing this on scientific facts, scientific hypothesis, and esoteric ancient texts, actual mythology. So when we've been using this approach, we seem to be able to predict what's happening with the weather, with the climate, and now with the pole. So I don't know what you think about the Adam and Eve story and Chan Thomas or Charles Hapgood's work, but I'm sure you have something to add, and we should probably go there in the next episode. Is the powers that be hiding a known catastrophic cycle that they're aware of because they know there's nothing they can do about it? And if they did, in fact, warn the public would no longer go to work, pay their taxes, or do anything else because they would simply be living to save their arse for the times that are coming.
Yeah. I want to just, if I can, just say a great big thank you to the people that have supported us on Patreon and PayPal over the last couple of weeks. A great big thank you to you, Diamond, for having us on your show and getting some more awareness of this. And I think we all want to know the major two questions with regards to this pole shift. And that is, how bad will it be? And when will it take place? And with those two questions, if you put a bit of support into this observatory that we've got over here in the UK, we can hopefully answer those two questions in the not too distant future.
Well, the first one we will definitely be able to answer for all of you listening is when it will happen. Because if we have magnetometers all across the earth, we will know when it's happening. We will have the data as it's accelerating. We will know that we need to upload more data on a weekly basis instead of a monthly basis. With your help, we will have the clarity and the insight to actually predict when the worst times will be, simply because we will know what's happening now with respect to the actual pole positions, which we will be monitoring. So we'll be able to monitor the global unrest or the crop failure or the famine occurring based on the pole shift position, and there could be a tipping point. The poles may accelerate in 4 or 5 months, even faster. And with this equipment in place, we will be able to know that. Now, that also gives us several months to continue to talk about all of the information that is now being revealed with some of the classified documents, some of the more esoteric information, and you and I talking, because we really have never talked about this. We're going to have independent perspectives, and we're going to be able to grow our ideas moving forward. So I look forward, Gene, to many, many more very stimulating conversations like this one. And as we get these magnetometers in place, I can see an explosion of the public being interested in what we've created and the information that we're providing. Because you and I really don't endorse any products. We're not salesmen. We're doing this because you and I believe in the science. But just like all people on earth, we are slaves. We are puppets to the master. We have to have jobs. We have to make money. We have to pay taxes. And it's nice to know that the public is willing to support the endeavor. It gives, so once I saw all the people supporting my Patreon, I knew I had to continue to do this to the best of my ability because the people wanted me to do it. And that little bit of money that I'm getting and the money that you're getting now, that's going to be directly translated into the more passion into the work we're doing because we know we have support from the public. For me, it was the main driver of why it makes me feel so amazing every morning to wake up and to do this work because people are counting on me.
Yeah. I mean, I could have quite easily been one of these people that worked for one of these larger organisations, building the equipment that I build, and looking into the subjects I've looked into. The fact is, we live in a day and age where technology is getting easier to grasp, use, and manipulate, and that is exactly what we've done in this occasion. If NASA had had the project handed to them, it would have cost millions and millions of pounds. Simply, there would have been a project manager, there would have been a design engineer, there'd have been a programmer, there'd have been this, that, and all the others. I'm just lucky to have the skills to put all this together, one person, and do it on such a small budget. But it doesn't mean that the results are anything less than what would be, at the bigger organisations, because at the end of the day, I've already proved it many times. We came out 4 months ago, well ahead of all these organisations. We came out well before Christmas. It took them till the 9th of January to start releasing data that there is a progressive movement in the magnetic poles taking place right now.
Well, the facts are in. Maverickstar Reloaded is the newest NASA. The only difference is he's going to tell you the truth. And we're going to tell you the truth as we move forward. ESA Swarm, that data cost billions of dollars, is being manipulated, and will only be fed to you if you can digest it. Go ahead.
It's right. Yeah, it's right. Swarm won't release any data over level 2. If you look at the project handlers, you'll see it's defence, Airbus, and military contractors. So I already know that part of the data that Swarm collect is for military programs. I won't talk too much about them because the last thing I don't want to do is get either of us in trouble first through probably releasing sensitive information. But some of this stuff is already been put out in media anyhow, and what the military use these magnetic maps for. So, that's why they won't release too much data on the magnetic maps, because they're being used for military programs. But we can't get above level 2, and it just seems to be, that is the data that we really would love to get hold of. It's just a shame that they're not forthcoming, because at the end of the day, they have used taxpayers' money to fund these programs, and they're not giving the information to the taxpayers. It's another reason, really, to get on board and support what we do at Mavstar Observatory. And, we have, for the last 7 years, been open and, forthcoming with all the data we've got. Whether it is bad news for us all or good news, it's going to come out one way or another. We're going to tell you how it is. And that's what people want. They don't want to be treated like children. They want to know, what their money's being invested in. It's just a shame that, with regards to these projects, it is the case a lot of the time. It never gets back to the public.
Yeah. And if you do follow us and you support Gene and you support our channel and you watch us move forward, we will tell you the truth. We will not candy coat it, because we live on the same earth that you do. And we want you to be just as prepared as we will be, because it would be a lonely planet if the only person left was Gene and Diamond and we were on opposite sides of the Atlantic. We need help. So we implore you, come over to genespoleshiftnews.com. Check it out. All the links will be below. Awesome website. Learn about the TriMag data. Learn how to interpret yourself. Come be a new patron. Just had an explosion over here. He just started this page, and you can get on the first 100. You're going to be co-creators in the most unique citizen scientist magnetometer program ever conceived. And just like Gene said, if NASA picked this up, it would cost millions, take years to develop. We're going to do it on a shoestring, and you will help. You can help by giving $1 a month and watching the show. You can help by putting one of these units in your house. If you're a millionaire and you're listening now, you can donate $100,000 to the project. I'm sure Gene will find a great way to spend that. He might even hire an engineer.
Yeah, a project manager.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's waste the money of the people. No, guys, taxes are a waste. And just like he said, they're going to hide the information that you paid for. Is that what you want? Or do you want to pay a few bucks and we won't hide the information? The choice is yours. I can't thank you enough, Gene Beards, Maverickstar Reloaded, for joining us again tonight. It's late where you are. We're doing this on a shoestring budget. I had to rush over here to my satellite, and somehow we have an amazing connection. The gremlins are not affecting us.
Yeah. As always, Diamond, it is a delight and a pleasure to be with you. And, you know, it is great to be getting the information out to the people that need to hear it, I think. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, amen. And that's all we're here for. We want you to survive and thrive in the future. Thank you, Maverickstar Reloaded. Thank you for each and every one of you for watching. We went 46 minutes tonight. I promise the next one will be shorter. We love you. Support Maverickstar Reloaded. And that's a boom.